Well, this is Mike Valentine here with Inside the Squared Circle, and I am currently talking to Leva Bates. Leva, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Thank you so much for coming out and doing this interview with me. Do have a couple of questions for you. First and foremost, who is Leva Bates?
Who is Leva Bates? I'm just me. I'm just I call myself pretty much a shoot geek, and I kind of bring that to the ring and, times it 11. I like to have fun. I also can get serious when I need to get serious. But I'm just kind of a big ball of gas, I guess you could say. I just, um, I don't know. I like to think I'm a little bit of everything, quirky, random, fun, and I like to try to bring that to the ring. So that's who Leva Bates is. Pretty much what Leva Bates you see, in the ring and in front of everybody is pretty much me. There's nothing, really different between the two.
All right. Now, where did your interest in professional wrestling actually begin? Like, when did you decide that this was something that you wanted to do?
I decided it was something I could actually do was only like I guess about 6 years ago because I have always loved wrestling like since I was a child. But living in a tiny little town in Kentucky and then going to college, it's not really wrestling college course. There's acting, there's stage combat and stunt work. So I got into that and dance as well. Even took like some martial arts, but I've never ever found anywhere where you can learn how to be a pro wrestler until I moved to Florida and met up with a bunch of people, a bunch of friends who were also very into wrestling and just getting into training themselves. And they were the ones that turned me on to it. They're like, hey, if you already act and already do stunts and already dance, did you ever think about wrestling? I'm like, yeah, of course. I thought about wrestling, but how do you get into it? They're like, there's schools. I'm like, what? There's schools for wrestling? Why didn't no one tell me this? Oh, so yeah, I guess about six years ago. Wow, where does time go? Started training. I started training with at the time FXE, which was ran by AJ Gallant, Matt Bentley, and Devon Dudley. And then from there, I went with Devon when he opened his school up with Bubba. And I've been there pretty much ever since. So that's how it started. A surprised girl one night, sitting with a bunch of wrestling friends, like, what? There's wrestling in schools? Why am I just now finding out about this?
So, growing up, watching wrestling and all, who were like your favorite people, the ones that you would watch, and the ones who kind of pushed you into wanting to find something like this?
I loved, loved Sherry. Like everyone's like, oh, I love Elizabeth. Like, well, I guess at least the girls or whatever. But I was like, no, I want to hit the guys like she does. She hits them. She like chokes them. I want to do that. I want to get in there rough and tumble. So I loved watching her. She was just so over the top, so fun. Of course, her and Macho Man, and I absolutely had the biggest crush on rocker Shawn Michaels, and then Heartbreak Kid, like my world tore upside down when he threw Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window. But then of course he was the bad boy, and then that made him way sexier because all girls have that bad boy thing. I don't know, like some of the things I loved. I kind of like scratched my head, like, I was a strange little girl. I love Jake's snake. Something about that snake terrified me and fascinated me. Like just the whole thing. And like when, Damon got squished, I was just like, oh, they did not do that. Oh my God. Like stuff like that. I think it was just like the storylines and the bright characters that just really drew me to wrestling. Because I just, there's so many. I can go on and on, like Piper and the coconut. Come on, that's awesome. So it just when I was a kid, all of them. Like I even had like the big like rubbery action figures, and I had the little smaller ones. I had the action, like I had them all. Like
Oh yeah.
my best friend growing up, well, one of my best friends growing up was a guy, and he was also big into wrestling. So his parents would always take us to, events when they would come to town and stuff. And him and I would, at the time, for some reason, like now you could never do this, but like they had a local indie show running near our neighborhood, and we would just walk the days that they'd be running a show and going, by ourselves to the show. I guess back then, crime wasn't as bad. But yeah, I remember just us walking to the shows and going and being front row.
Oh, that's really cool, actually. So you were exposed to the independent scene pretty early on, then.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it because I'm like, well, where's all the guys from the TV? But I still liked a lot of them, like, oh my God, this guy's really cool. And like, I have, like, I don't know where they are now. I kind of wish I knew where they were, but I had like Polaroids every time I would go. They would take Polaroid pictures for a few dollars with the stars. I had a couple
Hmm.
different ones.
So growing up, then, you were obviously into professional wrestling and all that. You said that you got into some stunt work and everything. Would you consider yourself like a tomboy?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was a tomboy growing up, and I still am a tomboy. I'll say to myself or my friends or my significant other, like, I'm so not a girl, or I'm so not domestic. Like, I don't know, I don't understand. Like, I'll try to wear girl shoes, like, high heels, and like fall over or or take them off within the first hour. I'm like, how do people actually do this? It hurts that bad, or I don't understand. I can't walk. I look silly. I'm just not very girl-like at all. But yeah, I mean, I would always, like when I was younger, we would always play outside, and a lot of times we would play like, make believe. So, all right, you're Batman, I'll be Catwoman. All right, let's fight, and we would actually fight.
So you said that you moved down to the Florida area. That's where you figured out that there were wrestling schools and whatnot. And you said you've also had done at this point some stunt work, stage work, some dance. Wrestling isn't the only interesting thing about you. Could you discuss like what your day job is?
Yeah, I'm pretty much just a professional actor, dancer, stunt woman. I went to school for theater, and as well, I got a double major in theater and then also radio TV production. Uh, as soon as I got out of college, I worked at a dude ranch, worked in Hershey Park, briefly in Pennsylvania. But yeah, the dude ranch is where I really like spend a lot of time and really learned how to do a lot of different things. Like that's where I did my first actual like real stunts. Like not to take away what I did in theater, like with the stage combat, but like this was using actual firearms and like doing high falls and ladder falls and well falls and standing in the middle of a thing and having a jail cell fall down around me. It's stuff like that where you actually learn stuff that could probably kill you. So that's how I kind of got into stunts there and loved it. Always, I took dance in college. I took a few dance classes when I was younger. I liked dance. I was more into martial arts. But at the time, we really couldn't afford either one, so I would just try to pick it up that I could until I finally was able to take all of that stuff as college credit. Like, what? I can take Taekwondo as college credit. I can take dance as college credit. Ooh, kickboxing. Sure, I'll take that too, So I was able to kind of fulfill all my childhood dreams through college when I was like, ooh, these are actual courses? This is awesome. So that's kind of how I got into a lot of that. But yeah, like at the Dude Ranch, I was stunt woman. We did children's theater, singing, dancing shows. We were rodeo clowns. Pretty much we did it all. We ran the karaoke nights. We DJ'd the dances. We were like pretty much the entertainment of the ranch, and they would usually stay there for a week, and every day something was different. Like every day in the afternoon we have stunt shows, but that night, like one night it would be all right, this is the variety act with the singing and dancing, and next night's karaoke where we host the karaoke night, and then next night might be like actual like plays, just all sorts of different things. So it really, I think, helped broaden all of us as entertainers because you had to, you couldn't just focus on one thing and just do it. You had to learn how to focus on a lot of different things and be able to do them. But then I moved to Florida. My best friend, who also worked at Dude Ranch, she was big into makeup, and so she decided to pursue that and went to a makeup school here in Florida. And she was the one who encouraged me because I didn't really know where the next step for me after the Dude Ranch was. She was like, "You gotta come to Florida. There's theme parks. There's all sorts of different other like theaters and other like dinner theaters you can like audition for." And one of my goals when I went to grad night, like many moons ago, we went to Florida and to Disney and Universal. I said I was going to be Sarah Connor. Like, I'm going to grow up and be Sarah Connor. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to come down there. And I'd already done, at the time, when I went to grad night, they saw the Wild West show. And I was like, well, I already have experience doing Western stunt shows. So I might as well go down there and try it out. And I ended up getting initially a role in just like animated character for a while. Moved into animated dance show, which is what I mostly do now. But then also got into the Sinbad stunt show, and then finally achieved my goal as Sarah Connor. So that was really, really cool. I never get to do it because that job is so awesome and cushy that someone like legit will have to die before that contract will open up. But it's still cool that like once in a blue moon, I can get a shift over there and be Sarah Connor, be Linda Hamilton, who has been my idol for arms since I can remember. Her in P2 is just ridiculous. So I've always, was like, I want to look like that.
So, bringing it back to wrestling here, real quick, you had actually a few matches with TNA. I know you answered the Awesome Kong challenge, but how was the experience working with like a televised, national kind of wrestling company versus just the independent promotions where people will more than likely see you?
For me, the stakes felt higher, just because don't mess this up. Everyone's watching this, don't mess it up. Like, okay. The first time I was there, I was really, really nervous. Just because it was my first time, being anywhere like that for a national level, and I didn't know what to expect, even though it is filmed at Universal Studios and that's my backyard. I've been to those sound stages 100 times for other things, but just being there with all these people and a lot of them looked up to growing up, so it was very amazing but nerve-wracking at the same time. Plus, I was there for both days, and I was chosen the second day. The first day, so I got to see the very first Kong challenge. So I really saw her beat the crap out of someone. I was like, I got to go through that. So I was like, that really hurt. That looks really painful. I got to do what? um, but I did it and survived. So that was very, very scary. At one point, I did get hit so hard and fell down. Actually, if you rewatch the video, I get hit and fall to the ground outside the ring. And at that moment, I forgot where I was. I was like, what am I doing? Oh, yeah, TNA. And I got back up. Legit, I got knocked silly. I was like, boom. So, like, that, I mean, it was also an awesome experience because everyone was so cool. Like Kong, ended up being really, really gracious and amazing to work with. I even got to work with her later on, like down the road, in other Indian matches and stuff. And I'm really proud of those matches, very much so. But yeah, it was something different. Definitely different than what I've ever experienced. The second time I was there, was a lot more chilled. I don't know, like, I don't know if it's because I've already been there before, or if I was just way more confident in myself. Because when I first did the Kong challenge, I was still, quite green. So maybe I was nervous. I don't want, because also Bubba and Diva aren't there. I don't want to, do anything wrong and make them look bad. I want them to be proud of me, and I want to do well, and I want TNA to, be happy with what I do. And when I went there the second time, I still had those thoughts, but it wasn't near as like overwhelming. I was like, you know what, it's gonna be all right. We'll have fun. And even when like, because my second time there was for the dark match with ISIS, and like they're about to play the music for me, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? I got this. I'm not nervous at all. It's I don't know if or when I'll ever be back. I hope, but if I don't, I'm gonna make the most of this moment. This is my moment, no one else's moment, but my moment, and I'm gonna make it awesome. Just have fun out there. And like it felt like a lot, like it just felt almost like a weird Zen moment. I can't really explain it, but it was just like the nerves were slightly there, but they're almost gone, and I just had fun with it. Whereas, the first time, I mean, I still enjoyed it, but the nerves were way more overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like, I
Hmm.
remember like climbing in, just like shaking the first time, and the second time, I was just had fun. I was just like hamming it up and just able to be more me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally rambled on that time. I'm sorry.
It's okay. How do you feel about the representation of women in national wrestling, like in WWE and in Impact currently?
I see it kind of go kind of in waves. Like sometimes they'll have a really, really awesome like storyline and really be, promoting like the actual like, yeah, let's actually show a real match and show, some good stuff. But sometimes I feel like they just kind of push it to the side. It really feels like it goes in waves. Like, ooh, it's really good, really good. Okay, now they're only on for like 2 minutes. Okay, now ooh, it's an actual like 6 minute match. Okay, now it's back down to like barely even showing any girls. I think they try.
Hmm.
I don't think they always succeed to really, trying to get women's national wrestling where they should be, but I see. I see them doing more as opposed to just like, oh, hey, we're pretty, we have boobs. Like I see actual like attempts of wrestling. Like I actually see it, especially with TNA and Impact. Last several years with their knockout division. I think it had to push the diva division more because it's like, all right, these girls over here, especially when Kong and Gail and all of them were, really the pioneers of the knockout division, and like they really made everyone like sit up and notice women. You know what I mean? Like, wow, check that out! Like they're really beating the crap out of each other, and look at that. That's not your typical, model. Wow, she's tearing through those women. Like it's something that was like, wow, we haven't seen that. And that really made people sit up and notice. And I think they could utilize some of the girls they don't use as much, especially in WWE. But I get it. Sex sells. It's just a shame that you can't make the ones they think, which I don't agree with, ones they think are not as sexier. You know what I mean? Like this girl can really go. Why don't you push her more? We can work this. We can make this work. I always said it's easier to make a wrestler prettier than it is to make a model wrestle. That's just my opinion. Obviously, the head cheese people sometimes don't agree. But yeah, that's what I think about that.
For my next question, actually, it's kind of interesting because people haven't actually seen you wrestle. You have I'm gonna say very interesting wardrobe for your matches. I know I've personally been there when you dressed up as a Hit Girl, a Doctor Who, Marty McFly, and Iron Man. Um, what exactly inspires you to do this kind of stuff, and pretty much how true to life is this?
um, I I like I said, I am probably the biggest geek you will ever really meet. So I just kind of decided, like you see sometimes guys getting to do geeky stuff, but you don't get to see girls really get to go out and be geeky, especially on the national level where it's like, okay, hey, I'm pretty, and ooh, hey, I'm pretty too, but I'm a little bit more, funky, and it's like, oh, where's the fun side? Where's the geek side? So I kind of just took like who I was and just went with it, because I am big into the comic book convention scene, the sci-fi convention scene. I've Everything you see me dress up as, I'm usually a huge fan of. Like I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, which they're having a convention in Florida this weekend, and guess what? I'm going to be there. So I will probably definitely be there with either my Dalek or maybe in costume. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when I go on Sunday. But yeah, like I'm a huge like I work at a well, I worked at a comic book store. A good friend of mine actually owns one, so I hang out there all the time. So had a party in the comic book store last night. It was kind of fun. That's me. Like I love reading comics. I love watching cartoons and sci-fi and fantasy shows. Huge movie buff. So that's just I take what I like and I hope and I take it and I'm like, well, if I get this, I know there's a bunch of people out there who are just like me and they're gonna get this too. And they'll understand. And it seems to work, like people don't give fans enough credit, like we're all the same. We all like, we're all nerdy about something. You know what I mean? Whether you're nerdy about comic books or you're nerdy about, collecting stamps or you're nerdy about, maybe football. We're all nerdy about something. And I'm nerdy about geeky stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm a huge, like I'm looking in my apartment right now and it's nothing but like toys. Really it is. I have, like I'm looking at two sonic screwdrivers and a Dexter bobblehead on the same shelf, and my BioShock, little stuffed animal guy, and Yoshi wears my gaming glasses on him because the cats can't reach them and they won't lose my glasses. On my coffee table we have Arkham City video game and Fable 3 and then the complete Star Wars saga, on the coffee table. That's me in the ring. So when I go and like when I go to conventions, I'll dress up, and I'll go, you know, just bored. I'll put on like a little funky, like, oh, okay, let me put my funky, Oscar the Grouch hat. When I used to work at the Dude Ranch, and it was my turn to DJ. I called myself DJ Pepsi, and I had a Pepsi jacket on, and then I had my little Oscar the Grouch hat, and I would like cover over my face so I always see Oscar's face. Just did that, just cause. Why not? So I've always been a little quirky. Quirky might be a good word for it. I don't know if strange is, but definitely quirky. With like my style and just being out there. Because I get to the point I don't really care what you think of me. So I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to like what I want to like. Like when I was little, I was the biggest fan of Star Trek Next Generation. And a lot of people, still thought I was kind of cool, but they're like, why do you like that? That's so dorky. And I'm like, it's not dorky. It's actually really smart and fun and just cool. And like, all right, whatever, Leva. And, I didn't make fun of too much because I was so confident in the fact that it was awesome. And you're missing out because it's awesome. Like, I don't care if you don't understand why I have Will Wheaton posters on my wall, but it's awesome.
All right, that actually leads me to a couple of questions, actually, then I would like to ask you about some geeky things.
Okay.
Um, we at Inside the Squared Circle love to deal with like the hard-hitting questions, and one that we had asked our viewers a few months ago, and I'd like to get your take on it, actually. In your opinion, who is the best Joker? Caesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, or Heath Ledger?
Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love,
Hmm.
love, 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 love Jack Nicholson, and I think Heath Ledger was absolutely phenomenal. Because when I first heard he got cast, I was like, oh God, what are you thinking? No way. And then he completely blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. But I'm gonna give it to Mark Hamill because I grew up with the animated series, and that voice and that character in that series was absolutely perfect. Like still today, when like we're playing Arkham City and I hear the voice of the Joker, who is Mark Hamill, it's just right. It's just how it should be. You know what I mean? Like anyone else, I like. Don't get me wrong, like Jack Nicholson, awesome. You know, and Heath Ledger, mind blowing, and of course, you know, Caesar, he's great. It's fun. He's fun. Though I don't understand why he couldn't shave his mustache. But anyway, shave the thing. Seriously, it'll grow back. Anyway, like I each have a place in my heart for all of them, but I have to give it to Mark Hamill. He's my numero uno.
Question also, you said you were really into Next Generation. Who was the best Starfleet captain? Picard or Kirk?
Okay, I'm gonna say Picard just because that was my show I grew up on, and I only got to catch Kirk later on. And a lot of people are gonna be like, "I don't know, it's Kirk," but I know and love Picard. That was who I grew up with, so I gotta give it to him.
And you said that you have the Star Wars Complete Saga currently sitting on your coffee table.
Uh-huh.
So the big question out of that is who shoots first, Han or Greedo?
I'm gonna say Han, people. Seriously, I'm watching this, and I've actually had this argument with people before. I'm gonna say Han, because yes, Han. I don't care if you guys
Yeah.
don't agree with me, or people that don't agree with me. I'm saying Han.
Okay, so bringing it back here, when somebody buys a ticket to one of your matches, what do you hope that they leave with, and what can they expect to see?
I want them to be entertained. You know, I know a lot of people are known like, oh, I'm hard hitting, or oh, I'm, serious technical wrestler. I like to think I can do all of that, but I like to tell a story. I'm a storyteller, and maybe this just comes from my background in other arts and other storytelling things, but like wrestling is storytelling. You get in there, and I am telling you a story. I am telling you, white hat maybe versus black hat, and who's gonna win, and like there's even stories within like the psychology of a match, like I am working your arm and I'm going to beat you by working your arm, like stuff like that. And I really hope people actually get that from there. Or like I'll come out, in a character and like I'll come out doing an X-Men thing and I'll try to get my opponent to play with me. Like if you were at the last, Shimmer Tape, and you probably saw this where it's like, what superpowers do you have? And I just try to tell a little story and to have fun out there and for most of all, entertain people because that's what they came for, to be entertained. Some people do it with blood, some people do it, with, different tools. And I try to do mine through costumes and what I actually do in the ring.
And if anybody wanted to find out more about you, get a hold of you, follow you, or anything, do you have a web presence?
Actually, yes, I have a lot of different things you can find me on. I have my own website. It's still in construction phase. It will get bigger, I promise you. But it's www.levabates.mixform.com. You can also find that on my, if you go to my Twitter page, I think that is the link that tells you, hey, check out this link. But yes, I'm Wrestling Leva on Twitter. So follow me on there. I do have a fan page on Facebook. It's Leva Bates, parentheses, official FB page. And I tweet more than anything, so if you're following me on Twitter, then you're getting all of the good stuff.
All right, Leva. Well, thank you very much for allowing us to sit down and do this interview.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.